Hey, so my girlfriend's birthday is coming up. Here's the deal. Every year, I try and make a gift for my girlfriend's birthday based on her interests. Last year, for example, I made an escape room, which was actually pretty cool because it had some physical game pieces, as well as some decent puzzles. However, I've been trying to think up of an idea for this year that will allow me to one-up myself. And I think I might have found the one. The goal for this year is to create an entire city that is divided into 4 quadrants, each of them having a unique mission. We're also going to try to make the game run as smoothly as possible so we don't have to intervene during the game. And also, each of the districts will have a specific theme that relates to the missions that are in that district. As you'll notice throughout this video, there's a little timer that will pop up on the bottom right of your screen. This timer indicates the amount of time left before Sam's birthday. Now that I had a general idea for the project, I started by taping a few pieces of paper together. These papers serve as a 1-to-1 scale model of the city's size, allowing me to plan each district ahead of time by deciding what goes where and how large everything should be. I began by tracing where the road would be, as it serves as a reference point for the city's center and helps me outline the borders of each district. The first district I planned out was the industrial district. At its center, I drew a square reserved for the mission that will take place. Surrounding it are piles of sand, logs, a crane, a dump truck, and various other elements, and as you'll see, I left a small border around the edge of each district as a buffer to ensure that I don't run out of space when it comes to physically building the city. The second quarter is more or less the residential district. Along with the side of the road, there are 3 houses, each with a front lawn and a backyard. Behind them, a fence separates the homes from the parking lot of a museum, which is located at the edge of the city. The third district is made up of apartment buildings and businesses, which is why I called it the commercial district. I began by drawing a restaurant and a gym with a narrow road between them. Then I planned out the locations for the apartments, and finally, to the left of the district, there's a small market area along with another business building that's in the corner. Finally, the last district is a train station. Here, you'll find, well, a train station, along with shipping containers, train tracks, and a 3-story parking lot. The footage cuts out here, but you get the idea. Before I began modeling the city, one question still remained. Which software should I use? After some research, reading from qualified experts, I eventually decided to try out Blender since it seemed pretty popular. So after having downloaded SketchUp, I began by modeling the base along with the first district's roads and pathways. Then came the vehicles such as the dump truck, the flatbed trailers, and the crane, as well as other things such as the logs and piles of sand. A fun fact about the 3D modeling process is that I wanted to respect a general scale for the city so everything would fit in together nicely. In some cases, such as when I had to design the crane, I actually used real dimensions that I found online, as you can see here. Now that the easier stuff was out of the way, I began by modeling the first building, and the way I would model it was actually pretty important since it would set the precedent for the architectural style of the town. For this reason, I found some reference art online which I liked, and I used it as an inspiration. This building is the centerpiece for this district as it's the focus of the first mission. The lore behind this mission is that a thief exploded a skyscraper into a bunch of tiny pieces and then ran off. The citizens managed to retrieve all the pieces, but they couldn't reassemble it. Sam's role is to rebuild the skyscraper piece by piece using an instruction booklet that I'll make. The objective of this mission is very similar to putting a Lego together. I wanted the second district to have a more residential vibe, so keeping with the modern and simplistic building style we already established, I first started off by creating 2 buildings, which you can see here, and then I added a third house which I divided into 3 separate smaller buildings, connected by pathways to add some variation to the look of the houses. Once the houses were done, I moved on to creating the parking lot for the main building of this district, a museum. The mission I came up with requires a decent amount of space, so the museum takes up the rest of the district. The story behind this mission is that following the explosion of the skyscraper, the thief then headed down to the museum to steal some paintings. However, since he was being chased after by police, he dropped them, damaging them in the process. Sam's objective will be to restore the paintings to their former glory. The third district ties in the residential aspect of the previous section, along with some more commercial buildings. I started off by designing the look of the apartment buildings. My original idea of painting on windows on the sides of the buildings looked a little bit too flat for my taste, so I ended up designing some balconies, which I placed throughout the buildings to add some depth and make it more visually interesting. I also added some greenery to the roof to add a touch of color to this gray building. The story behind this district's mission is that the thief's accomplice had been narrowed down to a small group of people by the police, but they were still unsure of who the culprit is. Using her deduction skills, Sam will have to identify the thief's accomplice out of a group of people based off of a list of clues that I will give to her. The final district is, as I mentioned before, the train station. I first modeled a 3-story parking garage before moving on to an actual train station, including a walkway leading to the entrance and several railroads. Afterwards, I moved on to the back corner where several containers surround a small maintenance shack, and finally I added an electrical maintenance area, which seemed fitting for the station, and a big advertisement sign pointed at the road. Sam's objective for this district is to spot some tags the criminals spray painted across the city. Now you might be thinking to yourself, everything's great. We started off with 6 months to do the whole project, and we've already finished 3D modeling the whole thing. Nothing could be better, right? Wrong. You couldn't be more wrong, actually, because we have 60 days left to do the whole project, which includes printing all the pieces we've just modeled, and then after that we have to make a base for the whole thing, and then we have to get on to priming, and then painting, and then when the painting is done, we have to make the mission designs, and then we have to get the whole gift wrapped, and then after the gift is wrapped, we have to get it on over to Sam's house for her birthday. So, as you can see, we have lots of things to do. Alright, everything is now printed and it only took a little over 2 weeks, which is actually not that bad. But before we get on to priming and then painting all the pieces, let's first build the wooden base because I live in Canada and winter is coming, which means it's gonna get pretty cold out. So that went pretty well, and it actually didn't take that long, which is pretty good and pretty cool. And now let's get on to priming, as I mentioned before, but I was thinking, let's try and do something a little bit different. Not a time-lapse, not a voiceover. You'll see what I mean.
These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. Oh, these brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice.
Let's get on to painting all the pieces. Quick update as you get through the process, there are currently 30 days left to complete this project, and even though this may seem like a lot, I've made a very big mistake which cost me several extra days of work. See, the thing is, since my primer didn't seem to be working all that well initially, I eventually decided to stop priming my pieces altogether to save some time. But since I printed my pieces in a dark gray color, all the light paints I needed to put on needed several coats to cover the dark plastic underneath. This meant, depending on the color, I essentially had to paint some sections up to 4 times, which ended up taking longer than priming the pieces in the first place. Wasn't that a great idea? In all seriousness, I honestly didn't expect this part of the project to take the longest amount of time, and the more I painted, the more I started realizing how long it would take. The reality of how much time I would need in order to finish the project before Sam's birthday started setting in. Over the 3 weeks of painting, there were a good number of times where I considered delaying the whole gift and giving it after Sam's birthday. After all I would have to do is set down the brush and take a break. But I couldn't help but feel like that would be giving up. So after 3 weeks of day in and day out painting, I was exhausted. That's when reinforcements arrived. Hey Alex, do you think you could help me? Who knew that having someone to talk to while working on a project would be more fun than mind-numbingly painting? Anyways, this gave me the boost I needed to finish up painting and to move on to designing the missions. With 4 days left before the deadline, I decided, yeah, it's a good idea to start the mission designs. As I explained while 3D modeling, for the first mission, Sam will have to build a skyscraper. In order for her to assemble all the pieces, I designed an entire booklet with step-by-step instructions, and for inspiration, I used some Lego booklets. For the second mission, I designed 3 diamond paintings. If you don't know what a diamond painting is, it's essentially placing little plastic drills on the circles of a sticky paper to eventually make up a picture. I created 3 pixelated canvases and added some icons on each pixel which correspond to a drill's color. I also made a tiny wooden frame for each painting. For the third mission, I went ahead and made some character cards for each suspect. Each card has a unique description which tells you more about who you're looking at. I did use AI to generate some characters, but trust me, it's for the best, since this is the character I managed to draw. Finally, the last mission was simple enough. I painted some tags on parts of the city, and in my 3D software, I added those same tags and took screenshots to use as hints for their locations. For every mission, I made a mission description card, which I then sealed in an envelope. To allow Sam to get from one mission to another, my plan is to slightly modify a child's RC car so Sam can drive her character through the city. The RC car will be under the wooden base, and the rod will poke out through the slits in the road. The design is simple enough: a 3D attachment to go around the body of the vehicle, and a rod which sticks out through the road slits. On top of the rod is where you can place this handsome little boy, and there you go, an easy remote-controlled character. Alright, remember how I said I was done painting? Well, that wasn't exactly true, since I still need to paint the base. So I'm quite literally running out of time because I only have 24 hours remaining. And with that, the city is now finished. I finished approximately 30 minutes before I had to go and give it to Sam, so that was crazy, and I can't wait to see her reaction. But first, here's a little montage of the finished build.